And so with this upright posture, we could remember three things which are quite important. One is to try and have the body be as still as possible, which is not necessarily easy because, we are living quite, busy lives, speedy lives. So there is a restlessness. And part of that is that the body finds it hard to be still. But let's try. And the second thing is a sense of calm and relaxation. Although the effort is to be made, of course, we can do that in a way where we stay calm and relaxed. We're not being tense. Again, our modern lifestyle and education and many things have caused us to be in a sort of slightly aggressive mode all the time. This is what I would say. Very, kind of always oriented towards getting something done or competing with someone, or with oneself all the time. So here, although there is something to be engaged in, we can engage in it with a relaxed mind. However, the third point is important. The third point is that this has to be combined with a sense of being alert and awake, attentive. Just being relaxed is not enough, obviously. It could make us very sleepy, for example. So stillness, relaxation, and being very awake and alert, attentive. This is good to keep in mind. Another three words that are helpful when practicing is a sense of calm, a sense of clarity, So although we're calm, there's also a sense of clarity, not being dull and sleepy. So clarity, very important. And then the third factor is kindness. Kindness, also very important, extremely important. We were referring earlier, before we started formally, about the situation in the world now. And that is, in one way, you could look at it as primarily a lack of kindness. There's an aggression always happening, which causes us to engage in conflict, inner conflict with ourselves and also conflict with others, which can be often very murderous aggression, leading to wars and so forth. So kindness is we could say this, a kind of a relaxed, a gentle, soft quality. Which is more, to say it's passive would be wrong, but there's a sense of gentleness. We're not trying to force something on people all the time. The sense of patience, accommodation, if you like, tolerance. But here, kindness specifically meaning a sense of affection towards beings, wanting others to be happy. So when we say calm, clear, and kind, kindness towards oneself, obviously, one cannot be pushing and forcing and stressing oneself out. That's not kindness. And once we can be a little bit kind to ourselves, perhaps, at least try, then we can begin to radiate that outwards towards others, towards the world. And in fact, our posture reflects this. The back is upright. There's a sense of confidence, healthy self-confidence. Front of the body is open. We're not hiding from others or the world because, the world needs help. The world needs kindness. So there's that open quality. We're not hiding, we're not pretending that nothing is wrong and, just taking care of ourselves. Not that. Also, before we start the actual practice of breath awareness, we can engage further in what we call the motivation for the practice by reflecting. And we can each do this in our own way with our own examples from our own life. Think about the tension, the suffering, the unsatisfactoriness that you witness in your life. Primarily, we might say your own neuroses, your own suffering and conflicts, and the problems and the conflicts and the suffering of others, which for sure we are at least partially aware of every day. And not just what we read in the newspaper or see on our screens, but in your neighborhood, in your family. There's plenty of examples of unsatisfactoriness, pain, the misery caused by anger, attachment, narrow-mindedness, and jealousy, and so forth. So reflect on that, and then also think how wonderful it would be if, these people were free of that, and if I were free of that. Okay, so reflect on this, please, for a few minutes. Okay, so the reason we reflect like this on the motivation is because we want to ensure that the practice we engage in, which will be some meditation, some teaching, some listening, some discussion, we want to make sure that all of that is engaged in with the motivation of compassion, kindness, with the wish to benefit others, be of some help to others who are suffering, and so that our practice does not become just something for intellectual entertainment or curiosity alone. Although those things are not bad, but of course, we emphasize this compassion, motivation of compassion. That's the one of the very, very important factors in so-called Mahayana Buddhism. So whereas you see Lord Buddha says most of our time and even most of our previous lifetimes, which he speaks of, we have been basically looking after ourselves, our own happiness. And we haven't really been sufficiently concerned about others. In fact, we have neglected others to a great deal, even harmed others while engaging in self-centeredness, work for oneself. We've neglected others and so forth. So now that we have this very precious human opportunity as a human being, and we are still alive, so we can do something. We can create causes that can ripen later. We don't expect seeds we plant to ripen on the same day, obviously. So we can plant seeds that can ripen later, but we can also engage in actions right now, which are of at least some benefit to others. Or, as the Dalai Lama says again and again, at least we can live a life in which we stop at least harming others as much as we can, which is actually also a very big deal, if you think about it. So not using harsh speech, not lying, not harming, there's many ways we harm others. Malicious thoughts, covetous thoughts, all sorts of things, jealous thoughts. Even that we can begin to refrain from that and actively engage in something positive, useful for others. So now we're going to engage in some practice in order to prepare our minds, because, we may have some very ambitious or very wonderful aspirations to help others and so forth, but we can't do it if our mind is out of control, right? Then we won't even be able to help ourselves. We can't benefit much from for example, a candle flame, which is flickering so much in strong wind. It will also go out. So we have to have a very powerful, attentive mind, which is focused in the right direction. We can't afford to have a mind that is, as we say, jumping around like a totally uncontrolled monkey, which just flits from one branch to another. If you've seen monkeys, they can be very destructive, even at a young age, just jumping around, creating chaos. So that's what our mind does, the uncontrolled mind. It's also been likened to a wild elephant in the teachings, mad elephant. So whereas a well-trained elephant can be extraordinarily useful, a mad elephant is very dangerous and can destroy people, houses, crops, and so forth. So we need to tame this mind. So therefore, we're going to engage in a breath awareness practice that helps us begin to make the mind a little bit more centered and focused. And also helps us to not get caught up so much in the thinking process. We could say up to now, thinking is like a kind of a god for us, or a slave master, even we might say. We are totally dominated, most of us, by thinking. Thinking has its place, obviously, but really it can get out of control and make us very restless and even upset and unfocused. So let's just bring our attention, if we can, to the breath, okay? Your breath is coming and going, entering and leaving your body, probably through your nostrils, unless your nostrils are blocked. So here we bring our attention to the space between the upper lip and the entrance to the nostrils. That's where the air enters. See if you can bring your attention to that spot and the sensation of the breath as you breathe in and out in a natural way. Don't breathe in an unusual way, normal breathing. Although initially you might like to take a few deep breaths so you can begin to feel the breath at that point that I mentioned. So we're going to be in a calm way, focused on that spot and the sensation, watching for tension arising as it might, and just softening that and imagining that the tension is leaving your body as you breathe out. And when thoughts come, as they will do, absolutely guaranteed, thoughts, images, memories, plans, these may come. So acknowledge, meaning recognize when it comes. That's important. So you don't get carried away and don't recognize what's happening. Recognize, but then let go. Don't follow the thinking. Don't get caught up in it. Let it go immediately and come back to what? Come back to the breath. Back to the sensation of breath. So that's the basic practice we'll do for a few minutes. The key is to be aware so that when thoughts come, you acknowledge, recognize, not with impatience or tension, just gently recognize, let go, and come back to the breath. It's important to come back to the breath. And let there be a sense of relaxing as you breathe out. Really letting go with the out breath. Sense of dissolving and relaxing, but maintaining the awareness. Keep an eye also on your posture, that the back is upright, head tilted slightly downwards, muscles in the face relaxed, shoulders level, arms relaxed by your side, hands on your knees or in the lap. Take a few moments to stretch if you need. And welcome to people who arrived during the meditation. Okay. So, we're looking at a text that was completed in 1402. It's a very extraordinary text, putting together all of the stages of the path. All of the stages of the path that are necessary to really develop the mind and achieve three things, really. One, create the causes for good rebirth. This is very important in traditional Buddhist practice that acknowledges future lives. It's very important we have a good future life, because this life will end within 100 years or so for most of us. But future lives are endless. Buddhism speaks of beginningless mind, that there is no ending of consciousness. Consciousness never comes to an end. At least the very subtle level of consciousness never comes to an end. When we die, in each lifetime, when we die, of course, the gross levels of consciousness disappear, absorb, and only the very subtle consciousness is left. That carries on to a future life, future existence. So it's very important we plant seeds that ripen as happiness and as human experience in future lives. Why? Because only as a human being can we really engage in spiritual path and develop our minds. That's the first thing. The second thing is that with this, the practice and this text is concerned with also helping us totally understand how the disturbed how the unawakened mind operates. In other words, our ordinary, neurotic, deluded mind, how does it work? So we speak of samsara, the vicious cycle of birth and death, which is basically a play, or although play is a nice word, it's a process which is involving the body-mind combination, motivated by deluded states of mind, anger, attachment, and primarily ignorance, and then karma, which is our topic we're going to look at, continue looking at. So when we understand the process of delusions and karma, how it works out, how it can be short-circuited, how it can be stopped, through the practice of basically ethical conduct, concentration, and wisdom. Wisdom, very important. Wisdom cuts the ignorance at the root, the root of our suffering is ignorance. So this is what is practiced in the second stage. We understand, in other words, how we are imprisoned, how the jail works, and how to get out of the jail of samsara, of continuous suffering of one kind and another. But there's even one further stage, and that is not only how to get out of the prison, but how to help others get out of the prison and develop the motivation, which means we need tremendous courage, perseverance, tremendous kindness and compassion, understanding the suffering of others, wishing them to be free of it. That's what compassion means. So we need that in a very, very great great capacity. So this text we are looking at by the great 14th, early 15th century saint, scholar, Lama Tsongkhapa, who was Tibetan. This is what this text is helping us to achieve. These three purposes: future good human life, total understanding of the prison so that we can be free of it and attain what is called nirvana, but actually encouraging us to go beyond just hoping for nirvana and to achieve what we call the state of a Buddha, fully awakened state, out of great compassion, seeing the suffering of others. Excuse me. So we have got to the stage where we have looked at some of the initial meditations. We have looked at the importance of the human life. We've looked at impermanence and death. And we have begun to look at some of the suffering that is there. Yeah. And excuse me. And now we're looking at karma, because it's because of unwholesome action or karma that we suffer, that we create the causes for suffering. Yeah. Suffering doesn't come about by chance or because Buddha or God or somebody wants it. We don't believe in that in Buddhism. It comes through specific causes. When we look at the universe, anything, we can see everything we can see and feel and touch and hear and taste. Everything has a cause, right? Nothing just happens spontaneously without a cause. Nothing. Similarly with our pleasure and our pain, our happiness, our unhappiness, it has causes. Of course, it has conditions, triggers. You can say my suffering is triggered by a bacteria or a virus. I picked up a cold, so I'm suffering because I have a cold. So the trigger is germs and so forth, the cold virus, or in the air, whatever. But what's the deeper cause? You see, why do I have a cold and I'm suffering, and why doesn't the other person? So that's my own particular cause I've created to have certain experiences, or to have very powerful good experiences or unhappy experiences. That's my own. I've created the cause for that. Collectively, you could say, all the human beings on the planet at the moment, collectively, we've created some kind of karma to be on this planet together. and experience a planet that is in one way amazing, still sustaining us, but in another way it is also a very dangerous time, ecologically and politically, and in many ways a very dangerous time, due to not God, not due to Buddha, due to our own action, human action, basically, has created this particular kind of world, which of course will not last forever. And then our mind streams will be in different kinds of experience in different places. Okay, so karma, at the moment we're looking at the different kinds of karma and what constitutes the different experiences we'll have, the weight of karma, what constitutes that. So I can't go through everything for beginners. You will have to study it yourself if you're interested. But it's very important to reflect on what we call the 10 unwholesome actions, the general characteristics of karma, such as the fact that it's definite and so forth. And we need to study the results of karma. That's very important. What are the kind of results from positive and unwholesome karma? And in this section still, there'll be a part which I hope to cover today, where it shows how we can create the cause. What are the karmic causes for having a certain kind of experience as a human being, which is very beneficial for others? We can look at that also. So I'll have to move quite fast, but I hope that you'll get a taste. And those who have some interest, you can study this more, okay? This text, you can, of course, order online. The great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. Or those interested in Delhi, I can tell you where to go and buy it. Or you can read our reference copy in the Tushita library. You can't take it out, but you can read it here. So if you're interested, you can do that. And there are other texts by the great Indian scholar Vasubandhu you can look at if you get interested. And it's very important to be interested in karma if you're serious, because if we think, oh, well, it doesn't matter how I behave, things are random, that would be a grave mistake. People say, oh, karma is just fate, it's very fatalistic. No, what karma is teaching us is that the way we behave determines our future. It's in our hands. How we behave is in our hands. Certain things aren't in our hands totally. Things we've already done, sometimes we have to experience the result, But if we want to have, say, a particular kind of future life or future experience, the teachings tell us exactly how we need to behave now with our body, with our speech, and with our mind. Exactly how we need to behave and what we need to avoid. What we need to avoid, because unwholesome action leads to suffering. It's like a gardener. They want to plant good seeds in their garden, If they're a gardener who wants their garden to make people happy and so forth, they're going to take out the seeds or the plants they know are unwholesome or not pleasant or are poisonous and so forth. And they're going to plant and take good care of seeds and plants that are nice to look at and fragrant and so on and so forth. So in a sense, the mind is our garden, and we have to plant positive. If we don't plant positive seeds, we're stupid. If we plant seeds of suffering, then we are kind of foolish, because we don't want to suffer. No one wants to suffer. If we were somehow wanting to suffer, then of course, go ahead and plant suffering seeds, but nobody really wants to suffer. We all want happiness, I think. I do. I don't think I've met someone who really wants to suffer. I've seen people create causes of suffering, including myself, but that's due to ignorance. We don't actually want to suffer, do we? If due to greed, you put too much food on your plate and you start to eat it, by the end of the meal, you're suffering. But you didn't want to suffer, did you? You wanted to enjoy the meal and have pleasure and nourishment from it. But sometimes we're so greedy, aren't we, or I am, I put so much on my plate and then I feel compelled to finish the food because others are watching, or there's some, in some households, it's considered evil to leave food on your plate. And when you say, oh, I can leave some for the cat or dog or birds, no, you have to eat it all. So if you're brought up in that culture, by the end of the meal, you've filled yourself, you've emptied the plate, but you're suffering, right? You're suffering. We may have had this experience. Sometimes even after 10 or 20 spoonfuls, you're suffering. Matlab, the pleasure has gone down tremendously. And there is a feeling that, oh no, I have to finish this now. So, it is unpleasant. So this is just a very minor example, but we want happiness, but through foolishness, through ignorance, we keep on creating the causes for pain, which is, all the people killing each other now in the world, and even killing, children and women and this, whether through bombs or through cutting their throats. Some of them have their own children, their own cats and dogs, their own wives, and they show some affection towards those beings, right? So it just shows that human beings are so ignorant and so dominated by passions that come and go that we create actions which not only create suffering for others, but they are planting seeds, incredibly negative seeds in our own mind for ourselves to suffer in the future, and sometimes very quickly. Okay, so I don't want to go into everything. We've looked at weight. I'm going to choose some things. I can't finish everything that's in this chapter. It's just too much. But it is important to see how certain things, if we engage in it, prevents us from purifying and from noticing and from giving up negative actions. What are the factors that make us, in a sense, or condition us to keep on engaging in negativity, even though a part of our mind may know it's not good, and even though we want to be happy, we keep on doing negative things. Why? So there are 6 ways. Conditioning, okay? Conditioning can be meaning we have intense anger, attachment, jealousy, pride, ignorance, and that keeps on going on in our mind. So in a way, we don't have much control yet. We are so conditioned. And again, conditioning is a huge topic. It leads to all kinds of bias, You can see it acting out in many ways in the world. But here it specifically means we are motivated by intense forms of ignorance, anger, aggression, attachment, and so forth. Okay. 2, habituation. We just keep on doing certain things. So it becomes a habit. It's wonderful if we keep on doing good things, but often we're not, are we? We keep on thinking or speaking in certain ways which are not nice, not wholesome. Those, as we mentioned many times, some people are even habituated to killing. Not necessarily humans, of course, but think of butchers. They're just habituated to killing chickens and goats and whatever, as though it's just a piece of, a carrot. You chop off the head of a chicken as though it's just a part of a carrot. They're not it's as easy for them as it is for a person cooking vegetables. Habituation. So we can be habitually lying or killing or stealing, or habitually generous, kind, whatever. But here it's talking about unwholesome things. Then it talks about who we are harming. If we harm the Buddha, the teachings, the community of practitioners, our gurus, or our parents, that is very, very negative. And we do that. Then there is a certain kind of fixation on things like you keep on engaging in non-virtuous actions as long as you live, and you don't really cultivate virtuous actions at all. That's very similar to the habituation. And even though we keep on creating Okay, here it is talking about one favorable thing, that we do eliminate unfavorable factors and we constantly cultivate virtuous factors. So that will be something very good that we do. But the main thing to be, I think, here involved is to be aware how we are conditioned by certain very powerful negative forces within us. Yeah. And so that here we can also begin to look at what the cause is within us and stop blaming people or things outside of ourselves all the time. Take the blame ourselves. See how it's something, an inner factor that is causing our problem, causing our negativity. And then the habituation, how we keep on engaging in something and it just makes us suffer again and again and again. Yeah. Again and again. Okay. Then we spoke of, there's a lot here, but it would be actually quite tedious to go through this, given the time available. And I want to finish this chapter before because there'll be different things going on from next week, different teachings happening. Of course, the attitude that we engage in is very important, as we mentioned before. If we have a strong anger and kill, it's very different from having an attitude where we actually don't want to kill, but we are forced by our, commanding officer or somebody to kill, or we are forced, we could be, really persuaded by an auntie or uncle or mother, father to kill a fly that's come into the kitchen and everyone's freaking out. And oneself thinks, what's the big deal? It's only one poor fly, but, families don't like flies in kitchens, right? So they can immediately try to kill it, or a mosquito, and they get you to kill it because you're the youngest or something, or to prove your allegiance to the family, you have to kill a fly or mosquito, and you don't really want to, but that's also karma. You do create some karma by killing it, but obviously not as powerful as if you very eagerly and happily kill it, So there's differences connected with the attitude. Okay, but here's something good. Not good, there's something very useful now being said. What would be the effects of killing? We've spoken about this a bit, but if we are born as a human being, we're talking about, and you have created killing in the past lives, or even in this life, what would be the karmic effect? It would be a short life, a short lifetime. Wouldn't live long. So this is a karmic effect of shortening the lives of others. So in one way, it makes perfect sense, even at a kind of initial logical level. You cut short other people's lives, your life becomes short. How it actually works, I don't know, but it makes sense, doesn't it? In one way? Yes, sir.
Can I
Yes?
ask something on this?
Yeah.
That destroy someone else's life, your own life gets shortened.
Yes.
But I see around everywhere, whether it's Israel, the current war which is going,
Yes.
the Green War,
Yes.
people are living long. I mean, the
Are they?
people who perpetrate someone else, I find this.
Huh.
I'm not going to put names because that's not proper, but I see them all around.
Some live long lives. We don't know how long they live. A lot of the militants who crossed over into Israel are already dead. And a lot of Israeli soldiers are dead already. But what it means here, sir, is that if we create killing and we are past killing, it means in past lives, now we are human, we will have a short life as a result of past life killing, not necessarily this life killing. However, it has been noted that people who do engage in a lot of killing, like people who are in pest control and so forth, they don't have very long lives as a result of killing. It can be, but that needs to be researched. So this mainly means if one is engaged in quite a lot of killing in the past. What is the effect of stealing? Again, previous life stealing is lack of resources in this life. Because if you only look at this life, then it's difficult. You can say, oh, there are all these criminals. Again, I won't take names, but there are some criminals who did a lot of negative actions in India and they're living abroad and having a great life. Of course, I don't know how long they'll live. They're not yet very old people, I think, the ones I have in mind. But mainly, again, this refers to, and they don't have lack of resources. They have a lot of resources. And they have stolen money and killed and extorted and all sort of things, and they're still alive and no one has put them in jail. So you could say, well, what does that mean? It means karma doesn't work. No, If someone's having a long life and killing in this life, it means they've created good karma in the past. That's what they're experiencing the effect of now. But the killing they're doing now and the stealing they're doing now, they will experience the effect in the future, because things take time to ripen very often. You don't get an immediate result, obviously. This immediate result would mean if you kill or steal, you should immediately go to jail, but it doesn't happen, does it? For some people it does, but for most people it doesn't happen immediately. From sexual misconduct, an unruly spouse. That makes sense. Unruly meaning, so as a man or woman, you create sexual misconduct, and we had a long talk about that in a previous session, basically adultery and misusing our sexuality. Then you'll have someone with a lot of disagreements, there will be divorce, there will be unfaithfulness, all these things will happen as a result of one's own previous actions of behaving in the wrong way. Again, it makes sense. From lying, the karmic result of lying is that people will slander you. People will often say things about you which are not true. And of course, people will not believe us often. Even though we're telling the truth now, people won't believe us because of previous karma of lying. Divisive speech, where we have divided other people deliberately through our speech. What do you think the result of that will be? If we have divided other people through speech, what will the result be for us? No? Is it too difficult?
We will also be divided from some.
Yeah, we will loss of friendships. We'll lose our friends, or we'll have, problems with our friends. We will split up from our friends. What do you think the result of harsh speeches? Having very offensive, harsh speech we've spoken in the past, what would be the result of that now? No, too difficult? Huh? Yeah, we will hear a lot of unpleasant words. People will be rude to us. People will be unpleasant to us. Plus, of course, there's other things too. These are certain results, but other result, of course, is we have the habit of again and again speaking in that way. And that applies to all of these. If we have killed in the past, then it can create the cause to have the habit of killing. So we keep on doing it. We keep on creating these causes for suffering, keep on stealing, keep on engaging in sexual misconduct, keep on lying, all of these things. What do you think is a result of senseless speech, idle gossip? What would be the result of that for us? Apart from again and again doing it, do you think how will other people react to our speech? Is a karmic result of this one. Senseless speech, huh?
There will be backbiting.
No, not from senseless speech. That will be more offensive speech or divisive speech. From senseless speech, people won't listen to what you're saying because you've spoken so much nonsense in the past and wasted people's time. Your words won't have power, even though you might be saying something quite profound, but the karmic effect is still there, that people won't pay much attention to your words. You may have noticed there are some people, they don't say much, but people listen to them. Their words carry weight. Other people don't listen to. They interrupt them, cut them short, they say shut up, or whatever even. So that is a karmic result of having misused one's speech in the past by talking nonsense and just wasting people's time with blah, blah, blah. And we know people who do that, right? And maybe we ourselves do it sometimes. We speak 1,000 words when 10 words would have been enough, So from covetousness, we have predominance of attachment again. From previous malice or ill will, again and again, we have hostility and experience it. And from wrong views, we experience confusion. We are confused. The people we relate to it find us confused. Other texts say from killing, you'd have a short life and many illnesses. As a result of stealing, you'd have few resources. The resources you do have would have to be shared with others. As a result of sexual misconduct, your helpers at work and other places would be disorderly, untrustworthy, and you'd have a contentious spouse. So, you have double whammy. Not only your spouse, but people at work, people you work with. You find organizations or groups of people who get on very well, and you find people who just don't. A lot of disharmony. That is also considered the result partly of sexual misconduct. You don't find, people are very disorderly and untrustworthy. As a result of lying, others would slander you a great deal, and they would deceive you. You would be open to deception. As a result of divisive speech, your helpers wouldn't get along and would misbehave. Offensive speech, you would hear unpleasant and quarrelsome speech. Senseless speech, your words would not be respected or understandable even, and your confidence would not be unshakable. This is an important one. Through being covetous and greedy mind, we would have not only great attachment, but we wouldn't have a contented mind. We would have no contentment. This is a very big deal and a very big problem for many people. However much we have, we're not content. We're always looking at someone else who has more, or we think we would be happier somewhere else. We cannot accept what we have as being enough, And of course, modern technology doesn't help us here, because we can always see all these other things we could have. I was in a shop today in South X2 with my cousin, the Chroma store. You go on the first floor, you get washing machines, you get fridges, and you get split ACs. You can go gaga in there, You can go absolutely gaga. Of course, if you're a crorepati, you can really have a great time. But neither of us are croropatis. But yeah, definitely a lot of attachment can arise, covetousness. Luckily, both of us aren't too covetous, but I could see how the mind said, oh, this one is nice, this Tata Chroma one is nice, but the Samsung one is better, and so on and so forth. And the mind, as I said, it's good to get out of those places quite quickly. Otherwise, there's no end to it, So anyway, I'm being slightly, exaggerating, but we have to be careful. Great attachment, no contentment. Because, we're not contented with the fridge we have right now. I mean, I'm kind of contented, but other people aren't that contented. And we always, it'd be nice to have more space in the fridge, right? And you can stuff more saman in it. Eat food that is, not fresh. You have more space for leftover food. It's amazing how we behave. Anyway, as a result of ill will, you would seek the unbeneficial and not seek the beneficial. You would harm others, or others would harm you. The result of wrong views, you would have bad views again, and you would be deceitful. And then there are environmental effects we speak of. For example, the environmental effect of stealing, that you will have few fruits. The fruits will not be perfect. They'll be changed or be partially spoiled. There'll be severe droughts or torrential downpours. Environmental effects of sexual misconduct, a living where there is excrement and urine, mud, filth, unclean things, many evil smells, misery and discomfort. The karmic effect of killing or those things would be living in an unsafe environment. You could have a big city, and some areas are known as unsafe, right? Not everyone can live in Hoskas or Padmini Enclave. So there are some people who live in places where there's more, petty thievery, even violence. So that's a result of killing. That's killing karma, environmental effect, which can be one of the effects of karma, right? Environmental effect of lying are that any work that you do in fields or on boats won't flourish. There'll be no harmony among your workers. For the most part, they'll be deceitful. You'll be fearful and have many causes to be afraid. So there's many things like this given. So you can say, yeah, come on, who knows? But as we said earlier, karma is considered deeply hidden phenomena. only Buddhas know the deep causes and effects of certain things. Text number we're on now, the text page number someone's requesting, page 237, 238 is where we're on in volume 1 of the translation. Yeah, environmental effect of malice or ill will. You live where there are many epidemics, injury, infectious diseases, quarrels, many disputes with opponents' armies, lions, tigers, and the like, poisonous snakes, scorpions, many fireflies, so on, robbers, and so forth. Lions, tigers, maybe we don't need to worry about, but there are other things, aren't there, that we have to worry about. And I wonder what the karmic causes of having to live in a very busy, stressful city, or, with a lot of pollution and noise and so forth. But again, you can be living in that and come to Tushita, and for an hour or two, you're in an environment which is different. So that's the result of positive karma. If you have a hard time getting home because of, the different conditions, that's another kind of karma ripening. We've created both kinds. Some poor people, I don't mean poor and well, some people haven't really created any karma to have a relaxed environment ever. Many people. If you were born in Gaza, you've never had a normal, decent life, really. Or other hellholes in the world. There are other hellholes. Sudan, Eritrea, many parts of India. There are parts of Bihar I've seen where the people, I wouldn't want to ever be born anywhere near that. It's like, it's a totally different experience. Okay, the effects of good actions. Yeah, there are a lot of details here. We can't go into now. A lot of very important details if you really want to understand karma very well. You do need to look at that. But just let's look at something. Yeah, there's a lot of very, very. He's saying there's a certain kind of karma which you can experience very quickly, here and now, in this life, it seems to be saying. Effects of actions, this is bottom of page 241. Actions which ripen in the very lifetime in which you do them. There are 8 such types of karma mentioned in the levels of yogic deeds text. So if you've done a lot of non-virtuous actions with a predominant attitude of looking after your own body, your resources and everything in a very selfish way, that kind of karma can ripen. Virtuous actions that you've cultivated with a predominant attitude of not being so concerned about yourself, but more concerned about others. If you've done non-virtuous actions with an attitude of strong ill will towards others, that kind of karma can ripen in the same life. Or if you've done virtuous actions that you've cultivated with an attitude of deep compassion and helpfulness towards others, then that karma will ripen as in a good way in that life. Non-virtuous actions you've done with great anger towards Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, your teachers, and the like. The like can include parents. Parents are a very important karmic object, obviously, because they gave birth to us and looked after us. Virtuous actions that you've cultivated with an attitude of deep faith and belief in the Buddhas and the Gurus and so forth, and the teachings. Non-virtues that you've done with an attitude of enmity towards those who've helped you, such as parents and gurus, and an attitude of not repaying them for the kindness they've done to you. So if we really feel that, some people say, well, our parents gave birth to us, it's their job to look after us, and, why should I care for them now? That kind of attitude would be considered very wrong. And of course, that's also a part of, say, traditional culture. in the world, not just India, but in most traditional cultures, people did think to take care of their parents, but that's changed a lot, perhaps. And in the West, especially, parents are just put in old people's homes and sometimes kind of forgotten about, neglected a bit. So virtuous actions that we've done with a strong attitude of wishing to repay those who've helped you, that is also so powerful that it can give a good result within the same life. Then there's a whole teaching on seeing which karma will ripen first, later. It depends on many factors. It's worth reading. It's worth looking at when you have time. So now there are certain things that will be very useful to have in a future life as a human. So if we want to have, as it's put here, consummate lifespan, consummate color, lineage, power, trustworthy words, renown as a great power, being a male, you have to talk about that, and having strength. These are considered very things to be sought after. I remember this was written at a time when, and of course it's unfortunately still somewhat true, it was, you had less opportunity if you were born as a woman. That would certainly have been the case in the early 15th century in Tibet or India, of course. And even now, unfortunately, in many, many parts of the world, in how many places is there gender equality, real gender equality? So it's still, in some ways, is easier, to be born male. So anyway, what would be the causes of having all these things? First, they are telling what did they mean by this. Consummate lifespan is when a virtuous karma from a previous life projects a long lifespan and you live for the long time that was projected. Consummate color is having an excellent body by way of good color and shape, pleasant to look at because you do not have incomplete sensory faculties, and being beautiful due to being well proportioned. Consummate lineage is having been born with a good lineage that is esteemed and famed in the world. Consummate power is having great resources, an abundance of close associates, such as relatives, and many helpers. Trustworthy words means words that living beings accept because you are suitable to be trusted, not to delude others physically or vocally, and you are an authoritative witness in all disputes. Renown as a great power means to be honored by a great multitude of beings because of your fame and wide acclaim, due to your confident generosity and possession of good qualities such as perseverance. Being male is to have the male body, the male organ, and so forth. Having strength is by the power of previous karma, naturally experiencing little injury, no illness, and great enthusiasm arising from this life's circumstances. Okay, so this is happy realm, rebirth with a lifespan, with the body, good birth, the power, resource, and helpers, powerful, trustworthy words, which are authoritative, having power, being a male, and having strength, power in your activities. So, what causes this? I think causes. What causes this? What causes these kind of results? The cause of a consummate lifespan, what do you think that is? Having a long lifespan, what is the cause?
Good health.
Huh?
Good health.
Good what?
Good health.
What is the karmic cause of having a long life? Previous karmic cause. We've mentioned it before. Not killing, preserving life, and so forth. So the cause of consummate life is not harming living beings and the application of a non-violent attitude. By rescuing those who are about to be killed, giving life to others, turning harm away from living beings, you will acquire a long lifespan. Through caring for the sick, through a doctor's giving medicines to the sick, through not harming other beings with sticks, clumps of earth and the like, you will be without illness. Cause of consummate color. Again, this has to be looked at culturally also, I guess. It's still there, isn't it? Consummate color, I presume, unfortunately, is having a fair color. Hence all these creams we use to become more gora. The cause of consummate color is giving light, such as butter lamps and new clothing. Further, it is said that by relying on kindness, giving jewelry, you will have a good physical form. The result of being without jealousy is said to be good fortune. So again, we have to reflect on these things. But, if you want to help others, look, the point is, this is given all in the context of Mahayana. The point is to have a rebirth where you can be of greatest benefit to others. So, of course, if you see as a bodhisattva, there's someone who has great power and compassion already, that you want to be reborn in Africa to help African people, then of course, you will be reborn. You will decide to be reborn to the parents whose color is the most appropriate to what you're doing. And through your wisdom, you will know what to do, whether to be born black or brown or white or yellow. You will have that power as a bodhisattva to choose your future parents. That is one power that a very compassionate person has. We don't have that yet. But you see, it's all relative. So don't think, oh, they are racist. They're talking, you should have a white color. Yeah, sometimes it's good to have a white color. Sometimes it's better to have a brown color. Sometimes better to have a black color. If you want to be reborn among people who are not going to trust people with white color, then it's better to be born with black color, right? Or whatever shade. And of course, whatever race, with Mongolian features or Caucasian features or North Indian or South Indian or whatever features, So don't get caught up in, what's it called nowadays? What is it when people immediately say the opposite thing? What's it called? There's a term for it now.
Opposite of?
Not othering. There's othering going on, but there's also the politics of, what's it called? It's like political parties. You have to oppose the other person's idea, right? There's people who invest in just opposing things because someone needs to oppose, right? But there's a term for it, if I remember it all. Huh?
Protagonist.
No, there's a particular modern term which we didn't use 5-10 years ago on
We do like it's
Huh?
whataboutery, like if I'm
Huh? Huh?
Are you saying it's kind of a whataboutery, like
whataboutery. That's an interesting term. I shall look it up when I get home.
say you say something that gives me, then I will like give you
You feel duty bound to say something opposite to it or to
Opposition.
like what? Oh, these are old-fashioned terms. There's a very modern phrase that I've only read the last few months actually on the internet and in newspapers. थोड़ा सा आ जाता है. बहुत बदल रहा है दुनिया, बहुत ही तेजी से बदल रहा है. Language बदल रहा है. Oxford Dictionary is becoming fatter and fatter with all these new words, It's crazy, Okay. The cause of having a good lineage is first overcoming pride, overcoming your pride and making obeisance and being very respectful to your teachers, your parents, respecting others as if you were their servant, not they are your servant. So you'll have a good lineage if you learn to respect others. This makes sense. If you just use others as slaves, your slaves, then you'll be reborn as someone without a good lineage. Makes sense? Cause of consummate power is giving food, clothing, and so forth to those who request, even where they are not requested, giving such assistance, giving to those who suffer, and giving to recipients who have very good qualities but no possessions. The cause of your words being trusted and authoritative is being habituated to giving up, obviously, the 4 non-virtuous vocal actions. So you don't lie, you don't use divisive speech, you don't use harsh speech, and you don't engage in idle gossip, senseless chatter. Then you will have words that have power, that influence others. Cause of renown is making aspirational prayers to acquire various good qualities in the future, making offerings to Buddha Dhamma Sangha, making offerings to your parents, to Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, abbots, your masters, gurus. Okay, ladies, you have to, I will read this because it's Tsongkhapa and he's not writing with malice, but the ladies will have to, forgive this next 4 lines. The cause of being male is delight in the attributes of a male, lack of delight in female things, seeing their disadvantages, stopping the yearnings of those who want to be reborn in women's bodies, and rescuing those whose male organs will be cut off. So maybe there was a time when people were, as a punishment, they would cut off your whatsits, and then you save people from that. Anyway, strange, isn't it? Some of the things you get in these famous texts. It's also early 15th century. So obviously this is relevant then. People in 500 years will see a lot of the things we are writing now is very strange, but they're related to what's happening now in the world, right? So obviously there was a problem in those days of males being captured and bobbitized, as we'd call it now. You know that term? Anyway, there was a Mrs. Bobbitt or something, or a Mr. Bobbitt, whose wife cut off his whatsit because she was angry with him. So that is called bobbitization. It's a word, to bobbitize. It hasn't been used for a while, but this happened 20 years ago or something. Anyway, let's not dwell on this. The cause of strength is accomplishing what cannot be done at all by others. So, attempting to do things that can't be done by others, I guess you show courage and assisting in what can be done with your collaboration and giving food and drink. So obviously, if we keep on asking people to do jobs for us, which we could do ourselves, obviously we're not going to have this kind of strength in the future. But if you really use your body to try and help others as much as you can, to, in all sorts of ways, then obviously you're creating the cause to have a good, karmically speaking, other things being equal. You will have a body which is capable of doing those things in the future. And of course, all of these things can also become about more easily if we make strong prayers. May I have all these qualities so that I can be more beneficial to others in the future, especially future lives. And why am I saying future lives? Because future lives, the simple argument goes, future lives last longer than the present life. Present life lasts 100 years, max, okay, for most. Future lives, no end. No end to future lives. If we become a Buddha, fantastic, but our mind stream still goes on. But until we become a Buddha, let us have all these great qualities where we're able to help others as a human being. We've not yet perfected everything, but we have so many qualities which then help others. It's true. Some people, it's just much more pleasant to look at. You just want to look at them and hear what they say, And if their speech is powerful and they have long, healthy lives and they're generous, then you feel inspired by such people, right? So it makes sense to want such a kind of body. However, there are very holy, compassionate beings who deliberately pray to be born female because they know that the world also needs examples of women, teaching and being strong and so forth, obviously. So people like Jetsun Ma Tenzin Palmo, a famous English woman who, the nun, she says she prays to be a woman again so she can, help others in that form. Because if everyone's born, all the teachers and everyone are born men, it's no use, right? What's the use? Women feel devalued then, but, why can't we do these things? So one has to do what is appropriate and what we can manage. So if we have a pure attitude, a very strong, pure application, and have pure recipients of our positive actions, then their results will be outstanding. In this case, outstandingly good. So in other words, if we engage in very positive actions towards, monks and nuns and teachers and our parents and others, in a very wonderful way, a good way, consistent way, then the result will also be outstanding. If we do it kind of half-heartedly, then the result won't be that fantastic. We shouldn't hope for fruition. Now, this is an important thing. We shouldn't think, it shouldn't be done in that way like a businessman making investments. I'm doing this because I will get that. So actually, we shouldn't hope for this kind of fruition. We should just dedicate the virtues to enlightenment. This, the Gita says something similar, doesn't it? Do your work, don't get caught up with the result. Don't hanker after the fruition. Just do your work, do your duty, do what is good. Don't hanker after the result. Intense power comes from the depths of your heart. Achieving the causes from the depths of your heart. Matlab, any of these actions we've mentioned, these good things, do it from the depths of your heart. That's a good thing to say. Not half-heartedly. Dil se karo. Karna hai to dil se karo. With full, from the depths of your heart. So then you get intense power. So abandon jealousy, competitiveness, contempt, especially when you see your fellow practitioners who are actually better, equal, or less than yourself. Admire all of them. Don't feel competitive towards equals, jealous towards superiors, and don't look down on people who you think are below you. Respect for everybody, because otherwise we engage in three attitudes, don't we? Jealousy to those who are above, competitive with those who are the same, and we look down on people we think are below us in any way. This is not good. And we do it a lot in India. We're a society very much based on this. And you see it the way we talk with people. I saw it today on my shopping trip. People who you think are below you talk with a certain tone and often quite disrespectfully. People equal and people above, then it's almost, Ji Hazur kind of thing. Although secretly you may be jealous, but So we have to be very careful how we behave. And of course, constant kindness and compassion towards everybody, because everybody is suffering. So even if we are unable to do the above, at least discerning many times every day that we must do it, he says. Abandon jealousy and so forth, but even if you're unable to do it, at least think many times every day, you must do it. So this will create the cause to be able to do it. If we never think about doing it, we won't do it. So if we can't or aren't doing it now, think we must do it. So we've skipped a lot of things in this chapter on karma. The next chapter in the text on page 247 is cultivating ethical behavior, how to engage in virtue and turn away from non-virtue after you've reflected on karma and its effects. The point being, we've looked at karma because we really want to avoid the effects of unwholesome karma, and we want to enjoy the effects of positive karma, because the effects of positive karma are so wonderful, and the effects of negative karma, unwholesome, are so horrible. We're not talking just of hell or something, but if you're working and everyone's fighting and people aren't, being trustworthy to you, or you're married and you're having disputes all the time with your partner, we see how much suffering it brings. So, we want to have happy life wherever we are. I mean, as a human, it's not enough to be human. We have to be a human with a good life, not a suffering life. The poor children starving in Sudan, they're also human, but we wouldn't want to have that kind of life, or we wouldn't want to be born in certain parts of, I wouldn't, in Israel or in Gaza. I don't want to be born in that kind of place. It's suffering, just suffering. Violence, fear, or among people who hate the people next door. What's the point of living with people who hate the people next door? What kind of life is that? Or you could say, like some people in India too, hating Pakistan, hating this, hating that. What's the point? What a waste of a human mind to be hating and being competitive all the time. It's just useless, according to the teachings. It's useless. It's even practical to have a calm mind which cares for everyone, then you won't be so upset when India loses a match. And you'll actually be able to rejoice when the other team wins. You'll say, good for them. Why? Because it makes them happy. If they're happy, I'm happy. They're human beings. They want to be happy. It's not just Indians who want to be happy. Even Pakistanis want to be happy. Let them win. But we don't think like that, no? We're stupid. We're biased. We're biased, let's face it. Stupid. From a dharmic point of view, it's stupid attitude. Very foolish attitude. It's understandable. It's natural. You will be criticized at home if you rejoice when the other team wins, but silently you can say, okay, it's all right. Good for them. Because, of course, this I find this difficult. With my football team, Arsenal, if they lose, I find it hard to rejoice for the other team, I have to admit. Yeah, that's because I've supported them for 50 years. So I'm habituated to that bias, you know. It's not a 1-year bias, it's a 54, 55-year bias. So I think I'm what's the word? It's justified. My bias is justified. 55 saal ka bias hai, so you have to allow me that one. No, we shouldn't have any bias. But I'm so happy when we beat Manchester City last week because we didn't expect to beat them. They're the best team in the league. We beat them 1-0. Yes. Even though the goal was a deflection. It deflected off one of their defenders. So you can't say it's a brilliant goal. Lekin net mein gaya to hum log jeet gaye. Karma. Arsenal karma. Chalo ji, bahut ho gaya. No, otherwise I'll descend into senseless gossip. 8 baj gaya. So thank you all for your patience. What I could say is you need to look at this topic more. We all need to, because it's very important. A lot of so-called modern Buddhists don't accept karma for various reasons. Some cultural, some because karmic teachings have been misused by certain people in the past to perpetuate inequity. You know, it can be used that way. You're suffering because you have created bad karma. You do what I say, you'll get a better rebirth. Who wants to learn about karma that way, where it's being taught to you by a dominant caste or something, forcing you to behave like a slave, saying this is your karma? That's not the way, you know. We have to see how karma is in our own hands also, and in the context of love and compassion, you know, not kind of cruel way of just putting people in their place. That's not the point of these teachings, obviously. So anyway, may we, as we dedicate, at the end of a session, we dedicate, meaning we direct the energy in a positive direction. So we dedicate that we may constantly hear authentic teachings and be able to listen and reflect and meditate on them, and not just use them as entertainment or just curiosity, if possible, but to put them into practice by engaging in the 10 wholesome actions and giving up 10 unwholesome actions like killing and stealing and so forth. And of course, also malicious thoughts and lack of contentment, all these things we have to watch. The greedy mind, which goes gaga and chroma and all. So may we never be separated from these teachings and the authentic teachers like His Holiness Dalai Lama and other great teachers. May they have long and healthy lives, continue to guide us. May the suffering in the world due to famine, due to disease, due to conflict be reduced and come to an end. May people realize the benefits of helping one another rather than fighting one another. And of course, many things have to change before things can get better, but may they get better. May the conflicts now in the Ukraine and in the Middle East quickly be settled. At least may the sides come to the, come to the table and discuss peace terms before there's total disaster. and before more regional powers are drawn into the conflict, which could be very disastrous for many people. And create even more imbalances and suffering in an already very challenged world. May those who are exploiting the resources of the world with only the thought of profit, may they stop behaving in that way and behave in a more intelligent and kind way towards Mother Earth. May all those who sincerely wish to practice have long and healthy lives and always have the help they need to continue their studies, their reflection, and their meditation. So just before we finish, I will just, there's some very interesting programs coming up that are being organized by Tushita. And of course, you will see it at some point if you are on our groups. But just to give you a taste of what might be coming up very soon, we have so many, yeah, upcoming program. Do you know what the upcoming program is? Is it on the Tushita announcements or on the Tushita headquarters list? I saw it on one list just now. Kahan tha?
It's on headquarters.
Huh? Headquarters? On the headquarters list? Kahan par hai?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Whoops. Please find it again.
Here it is.
Thank you. So this is all confirmed, is it pretty much?
Yes.
We have a very good teacher, Glenn Svensson, on Saturday, the 28th of October. That's a day program, 10 a.m. to 4:30. He'll probably teach on how to develop a calm mind, attentive mind, mind of shamatha, we call it. He's a very good teacher from Scandinavia, passing through Delhi, Saturday 28th. The great Geshe Dorje Damdul from Tibet House will teach on Tuesday, the 31st of October, 6:30 to 8 p.m. Topic, I don't know yet, but whatever Geshe-la teaches is excellent. Then Venerable Namjong, who is a Western monk studying at one of the monasteries in South India, is teaching on Wednesday, the 1st November and Saturday, the 4th November. Timings to be decided. Topic also maybe, is it? Yeah. Then Geshe Sopa, he is a wonderful monk from North Nepal, from the region neighboring Tibet, North Nepal. Very accomplished teacher, who was a student of one of the very greatest, very great Lama he was the student of. He's become a very great teacher in his own right. He's teaching on Tuesday, the 19th December. That's a bit away. This is just to give you a taste of the very good teachers who are coming. And then Geshe Namdak, who is a Belgian or Dutch, hold on. Anyway, I think Dutch monk who completed 20 plus years of studies in one of the monasteries in the south and is now the resident teacher at our London center. Excellent teacher, got a very high degree of Geshe in the Tibetan tradition. He's teaching on the 6th of January. So all of this will be happening, and I'm sure other things will come up. So please stay in touch with Tushita. And as things become more and more fixed, they will be, thank you, they will be posted. Okay. So may all these programs be successful, meaning may they help people. May people come to these talks or see them online and be helped by these talks. May Tushita and other centers become more beneficial for people. Excuse me. Yeah, so dedicate in this way. Also for our great teacher who passed away in April, having guided us for more than 50 years. May his reincarnation quickly appear, and may he guide us again in the future. Lama Zopa Rinpoche, may there be a swift return to continue teaching and guiding us. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. Sorry, I haven't looked at the questions online, if there are ones, but there's no questions. The text name, if someone doesn't know, is the Great Treatise on the, what's the English title? The Great Treatise. The Great Treatise on the Stages of the Path to Enlightenment. The Great Treatise on the Stages of the Path to Enlightenment. Lamrim Chenmo in Tibetan. And it's published by Snowline, Shambhala. And I can get you discounted copies from Timeless Books in Delhi, without any profit to myself, by the way. You will get the benefit. Well, I will profit karmically by helping you, yeah. Is suffering inevitable, or suffering exists and we choose not to? Maybe next time. But suffering is inevitable, yeah, so long as we have ignorance, anger, and attachment. That's one way to answer it. It's inevitable. We cannot avoid it so long as we have those klesh, those delusions in our mind. Yeah, we cannot choose not to have suffering at this point. But as we develop our mind and become more and more awakened, then we have more and more choice. Someone asked this question who is no longer with us, I think, online. Anyway, yeah, that's the problem with answering questions too late. Anyway, those who stayed with us to the end, Tiaji, Vishad Bhai, Neeraj sir, and Sujitwa from Kolkata. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care, and hope to see you again before long. I'm going to Bodh Gaya on Sunday, so we'll see some of you after a month or so, after 3 weeks. But we have lots of wonderful teachers lined up and people helping to continue the program. So please continue to support them. Thank you.